There was no time for Frankie Burnham to eat the dinner. She had been frantic backstage, helping the junior performers change out of costumes and making sure they were collected by parents. It had been her idea that students made up the first act, ensuring families bought tickets to the gala. It also guaranteed that the parents and their wallets stayed after the meal to bid enthusiastically on auction items as they waited to see the star of the show. Frankie had found inventive ways to fit in more people when they were overwhelmed with bookings. The main ballroom was bursting, with overflow tables crammed onto the balcony. Dolly, the unofficial business manager for the Palais, observed tartly they should have charged more per head and insisted that leaflets advertising Walton's Academy's dance classes and the next jazz night be left on all seats, even though others worried it was tacky. The Palais, a crumbling old two-story Masonic lodge, had at different times been a dance hall, a function centre, and was now Walton's Academy of Dance, home of Baby V, as the painted sign out the front proclaimed. It was at its best tonight, with the pockmarked wooden floor covered by tables draped in white sheets. Frankie's husband, Joe, had balanced precariously on a ladder for most of that day, hanging thousands of fairy lights overhead. Frankie gazed at the room. The hairdressers of Welcome had been fully booked for the week. Outfits had appeared from the back of wardrobes. Good shoes were checked for marks and worn-out heels. Weathered farmers were squeezed into musty suits that usually only appeared at weddings. They shared tables with local counsellors, doctors, and used car salesmen. Nurses from the hospital clinked glasses with Constable Billy Wicks, who had been deputised to represent the police station. His wife was too busy getting in the ear of Ruhan Singh, who ran the pharmacy in the shopping centre, to notice her plate was being cleared. Frankie's table mostly comprised fellow teachers from St. Bridget's. Even Assistant Principal Ivan Rowland, Ivan the Terrible, had been shamed into buying a ticket. An assortment of middle-aged men had bussed in that morning from out of town. They had arrived at the Palais dressed in black tie and wearing wigs in the Baby V hairstyle, golden curls in bunches, and ordered bottles of sparkling wine. Frankie's best friend, Mur, who had served some of the men at the supermarket that afternoon, discovered they were part of the official fan club. Many local businesses had been prepared to make a cash donation or provide something to be auctioned, though Janet Ross had made a fuss backstage because the local MP, who was a wealthy property developer, had not contributed a cent. Frankie pointed out that his mother had sponsored a banquet dinner for 4 at the Wok and Roll, and that his stepdaughter was one of tonight's volunteer waiters, but Janet still worried over it. To distract her, Frankie suggested she make a cup of tea for the main attraction. Frankie felt like she couldn't breathe with excitement, though perhaps it was her new shapewear, bought especially for the occasion, which had somehow rolled itself up to her navel. Beth hadn't let anyone watch the rehearsals, not even when Frankie begged. She hadn't seen Vanessa perform since the free tickets to Carols by Candlelight years earlier, given in part as payment for the assignments and essays that Frankie had ghostwritten for her during high school. Tonight would be something special. As the lights dimmed, Frankie took her seat between Joe and her dad, Des. Her untouched yellow curry had been claimed by her father, never one to waste food. Only he seemed nonplussed by the excitement. She had insisted he come along tonight, buying the extra ticket so he couldn't argue. A spotlight wobbled across the velvet curtain as conversation hushed. There was a trill on the piano keys, and the pianist, St. Bridget's music teacher, then launched into the theme tune of Shining Stars, the TV variety show that Vanessa had joined when she was 8, staying on until her early teens. As the youngest member of the cast, and also because there was another performer with the same name, she had been dubbed Baby V. Frankie, who had watched the show every Saturday night growing up, knew that Vanessa had spent years trying to escape that childhood persona, wanting to be considered a serious actress. But apparently she had been persuaded to embrace it, if only for one evening.